I should have known you'd bid me farewell. There's a lesson to be learned from this, and I learned it very well. Now I know you're not the only starfish in the sea. If I never hear your name again, it's all the same to me. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Cared for secrets I'd confide. To you I'm just an ornament, something for your pride. Always running, never caring, that's the life you live. Stolen minutes of your time were all you had to give. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. The stories in the past with nothing to recall. I've got my life to live and I don't need you at all. The roller coaster ride we took is nearly at an end. I've bought my ticket with my tears, that's all I'm gonna spend. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Oh, I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Oh, it's bouncing and it's shining like a red rubber ball. To the Battle of New Orleans at the end of the early British wars. The young land started growing, the young blood started flowing, but I ain't a-marching anymore. For I killed my share of Injuns in 1,000 different fights. I was there at the Little Big Horn. I heard many men a-lying, I saw many more a-dying, but I ain't a-marching anymore. It's always the old to lead us to the wars, always the young to fall. Now look at all we've won with the saber and the gun. Tell me, is it worth it all? For I stole California from the Mexican land, fought in the bloody Civil War. Yes, I even killed my brothers and so many others, but I ain't a-marching anymore.
For I marched to the battles of the German trench in a war that was bound to end all wars. Oh, I must have killed 1,000,000 men, and now they want me back again, but I ain't marching anymore. It's always the old to lead us to the wars, always the young to fall. Now look at all we've won with the saber and the gun. Tell me, is it worth it all? For I flew the final mission in the Japanese skies, set off the mighty mushroom roar. When I saw the cities burning, I knew that I was learning that I ain't marching anymore. Now the labor leaders screaming when they close a missile plant. United Fruit screams at the Cuban shore. Call it peace or call it treason, call it love or call it reason, but I ain't marching anymore. No, I ain't marching anymore.
Voice check 1 2 3 4 5.
children left King Midas there as they found him in his counting house where nothing counts but more. And he thought he heard the echoes of a penny whistle band and the laughter from a distant caravan and the brightly painted line of circus wagons in the sand fading through the door into summer. With his travel logs of maybe next year places as a trade-in for a name upon the door, and he pays for every year he cannot buy back with his tears when he finds out there's been no one keeping score. And he thought he heard the echoes of a penny whistle band and the laughter from a distant caravan and the brightly painted line of circus wagons in the sand fading through the door into summer. Yes, he thought he heard the echoes of a penny whistle band and the laughter from a distant caravan and the brightly painted line of circus wagons
do this.
All right, we are going live. And
Hey, how long did it take that paint to dry on the Stuka
it's
crop
still
duster?
drying. It's still tacky. You have to be very careful when I handle it.
T-1 live and Ken. Livestream is on internal power.
We are independently powered. The APU's up and running. You are clear to disconnect ground power and air, gentlemen. And remove all umbilicals. So,
Wow, you're really dark.
well, you're going to see I turn it up here in just a second. Well,
There you
Ken,
go.
we all have our
You're
dark
on.
place, you know. So I just want everybody to see that beautiful sign my wife got for me with the changing colors behind me. And when I turn the light on, even when I dim it, the camera adjusts and the room looks like it's fully illuminated. And you don't get the full impact. Besides, Ken, the darker the room, the better I look.
Well, you got to turn that light out that shines on your face then.
Okay, I can do that. Because that's what the world wants, is to see my face more up close and personal.
Ooh, dark man.
Dark Man. Dan Monroe just did a thing on Dark Man.
Yeah, it's lost.
That was good. It was good. I didn't. He just put one up on what happened to the Village of the Planet of the Apes, which I haven't had a chance to view yet. I just saw it a few minutes ago. But well, you know what? Speaking of Dan, I guess that's as good a place to start as any. I haven't seen Fran. Hey Trey, I haven't seen Fran commenting yet. Fran, are you here? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Okay, guys.
Yeah,
First
here.
off,
Yeah.
let me go find the picture. Fran actually found at Modelpalooza. I did not go to Modelpalooza. Fran did, and he actually found. Let me put that up at the top here. Oh, there it is, right there. Pause. He found a glass dome for the B9 robot, which he found the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, the Hen's Tooth, whatever you want to call it. And he was able to acquire it. And Fran, if you didn't get my email yet, I emailed Dan Monroe and put your email in the courtesy copy, so he knows he should, whenever he checks his email, he'll know you got one, so you guys can deal directly. But as you guys remember, we had Dan Monroe from Movies, Music, and Monsters on recently, and he was looking for a glass dome for his B9, and I exhausted my resources, but Fran to the rescue. And apparently, if I understand Fran correctly, when he told Steve, I think it was Steve Iverson, and he said, yeah, that's what he was looking for. And apparently it came like from under the table, like some kind of back alley deal, you know. Hey kid, I got one here, you know, but, so trying to accommodate Dan, I got a real education in these things. These glass domes are glass. They are blown glass. I thought they were some kind of high-end acrylic. They're not. They're actual blown glass. I don't know who did them. And apparently, that's some kind of state secret for some reason, assuming whoever did them still around. It was a limited run thing. No one's planning to make them in the future. If you know someone that blows glass and you can, get them to make some. I mean, the problem is it's a very limited market. But if they're hand blown, then I mean, what the heck, whether you sell 5 or 50, they're hand blown. Most weird glass things are, but. Anywho, that's there's a few bucks to be made at that, but that's not the kind of thing you do for the money. That's the kind of thing you do.
But you know what?
What?
If they're made of glass, you can backform them.
I thought about that. I thought about if I got one.
You're not going to melt it. So,
No.
You can backform them.
If you used thin clear acrylic and a decent vac machine, and you made sure that the post goes up in the center and holds it firmly, but leaves it plenty of room to wrap around, then you could vac it, cut it. The problem is you got to get it out without damaging it. So whatever material you use is not only have to be perfectly clear, it's also got to be fairly pliable. Although it only, you can see the ring on it where it mates. So you do have just that outer third that you got to get it out of. But I guess if you do it while the thing's still warm, and a little pliable, maybe once it cools. But it's a tricky thing to do. And
how did they do the original one on the real?
Well, they blew them. So that meant that what they would do is they would put the molten glass on the end of a pipe, blow into it, and they may have blown it in a mold, but then when the mold comes off, then you just cut it with whatever you cut glass with. I guess the edge I had did not feel like it was scored, so they however they did it,
they cut it and then they spin it and they smooth it out with a flat edged piece of metal.
Okay, maybe. I'm going to shut my camera off for a second. I have you know what? I'm not even going to tell you what I'm doing right now. I'm going to let your imagination fill in, but I'm getting a little warm, so I got to, and you don't want to.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you don't want to see
want that in our minds. No.
As a courtesy to the universe and whatever Chinese spies are watching this show and trying to collect data on us, I'm going to
should
do
have
this.
just said it was a glitch.
Yeah, really. We don't want that image in our heads.
No.
But you don't want to know what I look like with my shirt off, dude. I see it every day, and I don't want to know.
I've seen it once. It was scary enough then.
There's a
That's
picture
what you
floating
get.
out there on the
Hey,
internet. Of you
that's
like
what
that.
you get for sneaking a peek.
What's sneaking a peek? You did it right in front of me when we gave you a shirt at the auto.
I could have given you fair warning, but where would have been the fun in that?
Only for you, not for me.
Dennis Roberts says, "You saw, turn away, run away, run away." Much
Hey,
cooler.
Max is a glitch?
Okay, now that I've hit the on-air button, we're officially on air. And
Sarah Jane says, "Where's the mind bleach?"
I got to remember, I got to steal that one. So anyway, much cooler now. But these glass bubbles have become, one of the.
Bill Campbell says, Max, we're modelers. We have very vivid imaginations.
Well, it serves you right for having vivid imaginations. But anyway, hopefully, I assume Dan will grab that thing from Fran, and if Dan doesn't buy it, I will, because at some point it'll come in handy. But making we've talked about it before. Making those things, apparently it was no small undertaking, which is why they're so expensive. What?
Bill Paul said, Ken saw? That explains a lot.
Well, Ken and I have known each other for going on 40 years now, so he's seen things. But then so have I.
And I'm still halfway sane.
Halfway. But are you the half full or the half empty sane? That's the question. So, anyway. Max is a trip and he had to molt. Okay, since John Ashley Smith brought up the Triffids, no, who was that that's brought that up? No, that was Bill Campbell. I have a quick question, Steve, and this is more for you because you're the big sci-fi guy besides me. And, if we ever get Dan back on the show, we're going to have to talk about this. But I read that the famous, the movie, was it Day of the Triffids, Night of the Triffids? I forget. Day of the Triffids. I have read that in the original story that they were some kind of Russian experiment gone bad that was shot at us or something like that. I forget. It's been a while since I saw it. There was some differences from the book. But still, now you have to remember something, and when you see something has a big impact on how much, what you think of it, later on. I saw Day of the Triffids at the theater as a little kid, and it terrified the living crap out of me. When the security guard bought it at the beginning, I was like, hiding under my seat just about. And now
that could be me.
What? Yeah, really. He can't leave anybody. When you're a kid, you're a lot more scared of certain things, and when you get older, you're scared of different things, and then when you get even older, you're scared of the things you were scared of as a kid. But and guys, feel free to put this in the comments section. List 1, 2, or 3 movies that, as a kid now, not as an adult, movies that really just terrified the crap out of you. And with me, it was the original 1954 Godzilla, The Day of the Triffids, and the TV, War of the Worlds, and the TV show The Invaders. So there's 4. Like I said before, I had nightmares about that invader ship landing in our front yard because, the whole universe, they were out to find me. Because when you're a little kid, the whole universe is about you. You're like you're a cat. But
Hey, Max. We're getting some buffering.
You're getting buffering?
Yeah. Every once in a while, a little circle. And there's echoing. Every once in a while, there's circling coming up.
One of you guys, I could tell because my volume's. One of you guys has the volume turned up on your computer.
Not me.
Because that's what's looping through. And
I turned it off.
There it went. Okay. Hey, Rob. The Omen.
So you had a question?
Yeah, I was just asking the Glue Troopers to put in. They're answering now. What movies as a kid, sort of scared you? And The Exorcist, The Blob, The Mummy, The Omen, Attack of the Crab Monsters. Wow, you are.
The Exorcist, The Blob, The Mummy, Crawling Eye. Oh, that sounds good.
Okay, now
come on, you never saw that?
You know what movie I never saw that everybody saw at the theater? The Hand. I've never actually seen that movie.
Isn't that a porno movie? No, I digress.
Okay, I am really trying not to make a snarky comment right now, and trust me, I've got my cough medicine. I'm just about in the mood to do it.
The Cat and the Canary with Bob Hope. The original Journey's Center of the Earth.
Well, I'll be honest. Now, look, you guys are all going to laugh at me for this, but that's okay because that's what we're here for. The very first time I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show, when they pulled the tablecloth off and you saw the chopped up remains of Eddie's body underneath that scared the crap out of me for about a millisecond because I wasn't expecting it, And, of course, it's all cheesy, but I wasn't expecting it. It caught me off guard. And,
well,
my younger brother still hates Oompa Loompas. He must love that song, Short People Got No Reason. Back when they used to do a lot of novelty songs. Mary Poppins, really? Now, hold on. Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold up the bus. The crowd jokingly said Mary Poppins. But you think about it. Magical woman who flies in on an umbrella. I mean, taken from a certain angle, that's pretty freaking creepy. I don't care if it was Julie Andrews.
You didn't have an aunt that did that?
We don't talk about it anymore.
Lance says my mom was freaked out by Night of the Living Dead. Made us leave the drive-in early.
Can't say as I blame her. But think about it. You could put just a little twist on Mary Poppins and you got yourself one ugly witch / vampire movie. What was that vampire movie where the vampire, the boy vampire is hanging outside the boy's window trying to get him to let him in? And he's got like the Aurora models on his table. He grabs the cross.
The Lost Boys?
I don't remember. I had actually seen the movie, but I mean, it was wicked cool because it's like the kid's into like Aurora model, so he's got all the monster stuff, and like this boy vampire's hanging out his window, like, come on, let me in, and he knows what's going on, so he like grabs the cross off the diorama and holds it up in front of him. But I was like, that was freaking terrifying. And man, there are some movies that just give you the creeps. And
Brian Tate says, "Hooray! Max broke out the cough medicine."
Heck yeah, baby. There is a gentleman I know who occasionally watches these YouTube videos, or these sometimes sends me emails, and old childhood friend of my older brother, and he Salem's Lot. There you go, Lost Boys, yep. But he went and saw, and this guy was a military officer and all that stuff, and he went and saw the original movie Alien, and he walked out of the theater. And he was like, there's no such thing as aliens. There's no such thing. And my sister snuck up behind me and started going, he goes, stop it! He almost lost his composure.
This is your sister that goes single today, right?
I got to admit, I was pretty scared. What? No. She got 4 kids and been married for 40 years. But
was that Patty?
No, it's Kathy. But she's not married to him. She married somebody else. Anyway, I'm surprised
nobody said it yet.
Yeah, that was a pretty.
Nobody said that. I'm surprised. I mean, I thought that would have been one of the first ones.
Well, it's alive. David Soul. David Soul gives you the creeps.
You start talking about the Day of the Triffids. My son saw that when it was on TV. He must have been 5 or 6.
That's about how I was a little older than that when I saw it, about 8 or 9.
So we go out to dinner that night. We go to a restaurant, and they sat us in this booth, and it had like a floral display in the back.
Now he's scared of flowers.
And we still kid him about it to this day. We're just like, oh, you think the Triffids were there? Oh, okay.
The best part about childhood trauma is mocking people for it later in life. I know a lot of people don't like that movie. I think it was a good movie, personally.
Wait a minute. Robert Rodriguez, The Flying Claw? I'm sorry. That would be more like a movie you would laugh at.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was laughing at The Flying Claw. I tell you an old movie that did give me the willies a little bit, but I really love it. It was The Thing. And the one with Kurt Russell. Now, it's funny. The one with Kurt Russell, I think, was a really good movie. I think it was John Carpenter. But my wife saw it, and she just laughed because she goes, the rubber, the latex, it wasn't convincing enough for her. Because we watched every episode of Face Off, so we got pretty critical about that stuff. Which, by the way, total tangent here. If you guys have seen The Penguin with Colin Farrell? Anyway, the makeup they put him in, you would never know it's Colin Farrell, is genuinely first class. And it's all practical effects. I'm very impressed by that. But the Amityville Horror, yeah. David Soul's in Salem's Lot. There you go.
The Haunting was one of the scariest movies I ever saw.
Which one?
The Haunting.
Oh, yeah.
That was really scary.
Bill Paul says Alien was working rescue at the time, and earlier that day I had to pull a dismembered body from a wreck. Walked out at the chestbuster scene.
God.
I guess you can only take so much.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth,
Back of the van.
a very good friend of mine a very good friend of mine going back to college who lives in Tallahassee. He was Tallahassee TFD, Tallahassee Fire Department. And I remember seeing a picture of him on the cover of the paper, the Tallahassee Democrat, and when he was a fireman. And they had been handling a traffic accident. Some poor young lady was killed in a traffic accident, and he had to remove the body. And they took a photo of him and one of the other firemen, I guess jaws of life in the door or something. I forget exactly. But Bill, after that, he literally had to walk away from his job. And getting a job in the Tallahassee Fire Department is not, that's a very coveted job. And he left it and went and did other things, became a contractor because he was like, he can deal with running into buildings that people are running out of, but handling the bodies and everything just got to him because that one was the one that just the straw that broke the camel's back. And Bill's a good guy, so I can totally understand that.
Hey, it's a small world, terrifying.
And
Ian Atkinson says, Sound of Music. Now there's a scary movie.
Well, any movie with Nazis coming to get you is pretty scary. I mean, you think about it, not even joking here, sadly. There's a pretty thin thread between The Sound of Music and Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Bet you didn't expect to hear that when you tuned into the live stream. But
lost a few people. But
the best movie with Nazis ever is still probably Casablanca, because Rick shoots the Nazi, who ironically is a Luftwaffe officer. He's not even in the SS or anything. But I'm sorry, any movie that ends with you shooting a Nazi, it's okay by me.
Meanwhile, Halloween was pretty scary.
Yeah? Oh, Halloween was terrifying.
Yeah.
All those movies, Friday the 13th, the only heartburn I have with those movies is that, obviously they were money makers. They were cheap to produce. I get it. It's show business. But when when they're chopping off Michael Myers' head or shooting him in the eyes or something and killing him, I'm like, okay, all right, the movie's the movie. But when they keep bringing him back from the dead, he keeps getting beyond supernatural, kind of like Freddy Krueger. I'm like, it just kind of wears thin pretty quick.
Criticilla says, after watching my Bloody Valentine, I dressed up like a miner to scare some neighbor girls. I think one's still running and screaming.
you evil genius, you.
That's pretty good.
Everybody's got the thing. See, you know, I watched a video a while back, and you know, the guy was talking about what is the most genuinely terrifying movie he's ever seen. And believe it or not, and I had to agree with him, the genuinely most terrifying movie he ever saw had people in the cast like Stanley Tucci and a lot of other, you know, top-rated actors that you've seen. And it's a movie called Conspiracy. It's about the Wannsee Conference, where the Nazis decided the final question, the final solution to the Jewish question. And he goes, the reason that this movie is terrifying more than Godzilla, more than Alien, more than any other, is that all those others, you walk in Jurassic Park, any of them, you walk out of the theater knowing that Godzilla and the invaders and the Martians and all that, they're all imaginary. But this crap actually happened. And that adds a dimension to it that if you stop and sit and think about it, is more bone chilling than anything Cthulhu or any of the things dreamed up in our imagination. One of the reasons that people don't see that as a horror movie, and it's not, it's a historical movie, but horror movies are our imagination. Humans love to be scared. That's why we love roller coasters and scary rides. We have a fight or flight syndrome. We need to have that fright response, that amygdala response triggered from time to time. It actually keeps you mentally healthy. The idea of a real threat, that's something else entirely, because it's not imaginary. And I listened to him talk about that. I'm like, well, thanks, you just ruined that movie for me. But then I went and watched it again with my wife, and I was like, yes, this genuinely is bone chilling.
You mean like Anthony on It's a Good Life on the Twilight Zone?
There you go. Thank God, that Billy Mummy was just a 10-year-old boy playing a role, because if someone had those godlike powers, and by the way, was that called The Monster? Was that it?
What?
The one with Billy Mummy?
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
The episode?
Yeah, it was called The Monster, wasn't it?
No, it was called It's a Good Life.
Oh, that's right. That's right. When he does the introduction, talking about there's a monster that terrifies. Oh, by the way, this monster is an 8-year-old boy. And, yeah, the last thing you want is an omnipotent 8-year-old, which is what the movie Bright fed on. No, wait a minute, not Bright. Brightburn. You know, what if Superman was evil?
Robert says, my mother-in-law scares me.
You see, now that's terrifying, because that's a real-world threat.
Steve says, I do not love to be scared. Nope, no.
Yeah. Oh, you could... Okay, I think I've told you guys this, but I'm going to tell you one of my childhood shames. I mean, walk of shame shames. I was like 8, 9 years old, maybe 10. And my buddy, who, by the way, also became a pilot, my best buddy, Jim Ledbetter, was having his birthday, and he loved dinosaurs, and he loved Godzilla. And they went to see Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, I think. And I wouldn't go in and watch the movie. I was that scared. So I sat outside in the lobby in the mall with his mom for 2 hours while they watched the movie. And now I look at it now, I'm like, seriously, that's what I was scared of. But I was still traumatized by the old black and white Japanese Godzilla, where it was really, which is really, if you watch it, it's a dark film. Speaking of that, my wife and I just watched, when she wants me to watch TV with her, she doesn't say, come watch TV with me, or something like that. She would never bug me like that. She just brings up, Godzilla -1 or Shin Godzilla or the Battle of Britain or the Blue Max or one of the movies she knows I love. And I come out of the bathroom to go back to work in the shed, the Tarbis. And I look up and I see she's got, Godzilla -1 on. And I'm like, that's cheating. And she's like, what? God, okay. I'm going to make a
She knows what she's
confession.
doing.
I'm going to make a confession, and it hurts me to do this, but it's time to come clean. Godzilla minus one is now my favorite Godzilla movie, even
Why
over
does
the
it hurt?
original. Because I'm a nostalgia guy and I love the original for all the creativity and all the techniques they used and everything they did, and the fact that it scared the living crap out of me as an 8-year-old. I mean, I literally had nightmares about him chasing me down the street. But I watched Godzilla minus one again, and I'm like, I'm sorry. That movie was tapping on all 12 cylinders. You think about it. First off, and I made this point more than once, you take Godzilla minus one and cut out the parts of Godzilla, and you have a respectable post-war movie about life in post-war Japan. Okay? You cut out all the historically accurate, I mean, right down to the rifles and machine guns. I mean, they paid attention to so much detail. You have got to give the Japanese credit. They really paid attention to the little stuff. But you take away the historical parts, the family, the society building part, and just stay with the monster stuff, and you have a magnificent crossover between Godzilla, Jurassic Park, and Jaws, and it is a great movie. I know some people complain that it slows down because of all the character development, but the movies are not about Godzilla. The movie is about people, just like the original was. And you begin to care about these people. And the main character in the movie isn't Godzilla. It's what was his name? Shikimi, who takes the hero's journey from coward to hero. And the movie does not lose. I mean, for me, it did not lose pace. After a while, I forgot I was watching a Godzilla movie because and you see little things like as the 2 years that it takes place goes by, you see them going from living in little more than a tent to actually building a decent little home for themselves. And you see the gradual reconstruction of Japan. I think my favorite character is his neighbor, the woman who is, just a really great character in her own right. All the characters, even the little girl that plays Akiko, who's 2 years old. And, I don't know where they found that little actress, and I've watched it in Japanese with subtitles, and I've watched it in English. They did a surprisingly good English dub. And I was just like, and then the bit where he goes after the train subverted expectations, which I loved, while paying an homage to the original. There are so many homages to the original, yet they managed to usurp your expectations. That movie, to me, that's a lesson to Hollywood, guys. That's how you make $800 million or whatever it's made on a $15 million movie. That's how movie making is done. Because the people who made that movie had love and respect for the source material and for history, and they paid attention to detail, and they developed the characters. It was just that, and I just can't say enough superlatives. In fact, the next Max on Movies is probably going to cover that very thing. And and now that rant's over. What's next? Model Palooza. What? You were going to say something, Ken? Earth to Ken. Earth to Ken. Okay, Ken just fell out of the loop. So, again, thanks to Fran, and I know there's some more pictures in there. Ken, are you there? Steve?
I'm here.
What happened to Ken?
I don't know.
Maybe he went. No, he's still here. Oh, no. Drop. No. Ken's on hold. Oh, he must have got a phone call. Okay.
It's the marina calling, tell them that the mast is wrong.
Your boat sank.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't laugh. I'm going to feel bad if that's actually what happened. Anyway, I want to thank Fran for sending me the pictures, and I know there's more in there. For those who don't know, Model Palooza is a model convention in Orlando. Actually, it's in Kissimmee, and I've been there a couple of times. I love going there. It's the biggest one I go to, and it's a A lot of great works. My favorite thing going there. I'm kind of embarrassed when I see the work people are doing because it's way better than mine. That's why I will never put a model on the table there. But there's a lot of vendors. You can find a lot of rare stuff.
Gary says, "Oh my God, they got Kenny."
Oh no, they killed Kenny. Where did you go?
Who did? My dad got a phone call on my phone. He doesn't have a cell phone, and he has no power at home.
Oh my gosh, I just noticed this. This is all the old Batmobiles going back to like the 40s.
Oh, you mean the one with see how much it had to do with your phone call, Ken? The one with all four of them in the yard, all disheveled?
Yeah, you'll see it'll come up in a second.
I saw it when it went through before.
That's freaking genius.
What is?
You'll see it in a few seconds. You guys are running 20 or 30 seconds behind me, but it is
it's a diorama with here it is with the three of the four Batmobile models.
I mean that is freaking awesome. That is just a concept. Conceptually, that's a great idea. Oh my god!
Batmobile's up on cinder blocks.
You cannot tell me that model builders in general are just not a resourceful group of people. Creative. And that's great. I just think that's freaking awesome. And
so what's the cars with the masks on the front?
That's how the early Batmobiles looked in the comic books.
Early Batmobiles.
From the comic books.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one, the one to the left with the face mask kind of to the angle.
Yeah.
That's the first one. Then the second one, the one to the right of it, is the second one. And then the one that's all in gray primer, that's the TV one. And the other one's the Michael Keaton one.
Huh.
Because originally in the comics, Batman sort of had a regular car with the little, mask thing on the front, the little wing.
I think it was a red Roadster, wasn't it? A red Roadster convertible?
Originally, that's what it was. And then he went to like a more like crime-fighting car with like a mini lab in it and stuff like that. And the kid on the right, that came with like a little computer and lab things and things that went in the back of it. And then we had the TV one, and then we had the Michael Keaton one.
Francis said, "Somewhere in the backyard of Wayne Manor." That's the title.
There you go.
I love it. That is awesome. By the way, where the original one of the original Michael, the main one, I think it's the hero model, Michael Keaton, you know where it's at now.
Sorry, go ahead.
You know where the Michael Keaton one, the hero model, is now.
Yeah, that's what the little tag says, somewhere in the back property at 40.
No. I mean where the real one is.
Oh, where the real one, which one?
Michael Keaton.
Jay Leno probably has it.
No, actually, you're close.
No.
One of his buddies. JeffDunham.com bought it. But it was just a roller because it was made to roll on stage. Jeff actually spent a considerable sum of money to have it not only made to be a working car, but to be made road legal. He showed it to Jay in one of the Jay Leno garages. That I think it may be the same one where Tim Allen brought out his Copo Camaro.
The original Michael Keaton Batmobile was made in England.
Was what?
Made in England.
Well, there was more than one.
No, I'm talking about the one that was in the movie.
No, I mean, I think they made like 3 or 4 of them because one of them was just a roller for the stage work.
No, I'm talking about the working one.
Oh.
And it was made on a 68 Chevy.
Okay.
That was what was underneath it.
Just happen to have that laying around.
They did. Hey, how do you think they got the Supernatural car, Metallic car, baby? They were looking in Supernatural. They were going to make their car was originally going to be a Mustang, and one of the producers was like, "How are they going to carry people around in a Mustang because it's only got 2 doors and no back seat to speak of?" So they said, "What do we got?" And they had a pair of 68 Impalas that were painted up as police cars on the back lot. They said, "Fine, we'll use those." They started shooting. They realized they needed more. They bought about 6 more. One of them they got in Puerto Rico for $2,500. All of them 4-door Hard tops, not sedans. Okay? They wound up with 8 of them, and some of which they cut up, and because they had to be able to get the cameras in. And by the time, with advances in camera technology, because the show went about 16 seasons, they wound up only using about 2 of them. But the Hero one with the big, was it 386 or something bigger than that? God awful engine in it. And the guys loved driving it, but they said the thing was is they always had to go re-record their dialogue and sound because the thing was so loud you couldn't mic the actors. And supposedly Jensen Ackles said he was going to buy it at the end of the series, but I don't know if that actually happened. And now a damn restored 68 4-door hardtop, which was normally about an $8,000 to $12,000 car, they go for $40,000 because of that show. Just like trying to get a 69 or 70 Charger because of the Dukes of Hazzard.
Mm-hmm.
Man, once a vintage car has been used in a TV show, grab one. I found a 68, but it was a sedan. It was a roller. The guy wanted $2,500 for it, which would normally be about $800, but he knew everybody was going to try and make a tribute car. And I was like, it's a sedan, not a hardtop, because close enough. You know, people paint the B-pillar black and just deal with it, and even though the top shape different. So,
did you see the movie Arthur with Russell Brand, which was the remake of the original?
No, I did not. I liked the original, but I had no desire to see the remake.
Well, in that movie, he likes to dress up as Batman with Fetterman as Robin, and had one of those Michael Keaton Batmobiles, which my friend Andy made.
Oh, Andy made them. Okay.
Yeah, and he crashes it at the Bull in Wall Street. And but they did the stunt actually right there. They built a ramp and had it, turn over and all that stuff.
Hey, it's Wall Street. You pay them enough money, they'll let you do anything.
And one of the guys who was one of the original founders of AOL, who lives just in Virginia outside of D.C., they built him a Batmobile limo of that car. It's an interesting car.
Well, I tell you the thing about cars is cars are it's funny. Everybody relates to cars because everybody uses one. Cars, trucks, whatever. And I think that the thing about cars is they're far more achievable than a lot of other stuff like planes or ships or subs or boats. And I think as a result, that's probably one of the reasons that 65 to 80% of models are cars, because people want to build models of stuff they're associated with, and they know that. What I'm saying is I understand the affinity for cars, and I have one like everybody else. I think cars are cool, but
well, if you look at a movie or a TV show, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to make a car for the hero to transport himself than it is to make a plane or a rocket ship or
absolutely,
a boat. Because you can go places with it.
Exactly. But here's the operative catch on that. There's one caveat. A car, no matter how I'm not really counting was it Future Car or whatever the thing was, that thing you made the gigantic resin model of.
Supercar.
Supercar. I'm not counting that because that was more of a spaceship.
Yeah.
But the one thing about cars is that they're still, cars. Even the Batmobile is restricted to the ground. The vehicles that catch everybody's attention in amazing ways are usually like the Starship Enterprise or something like that. But those are vehicles of fantasy. So you're dealing in two entirely different realms, one of fantasy and one of quasi-reality.
Yeah, because you can't have one. That's why.
Yeah. Now,
and the technology is so out of the grasp of normalcy that it's like, wow.
Oh, well, yeah. And that's like why some people prefer a slasher flick to a kaiju flick. Michael Myers is more in our world than Godzilla. So that's all I'm saying. It's just, it depends on, one of them is pure fantasy and the other one, yeah, that could sort of happen. That's probably one of the reasons Alien and Aliens were so popular, is it kind of rode the middle ground. Who knows what the future holds? Aliens and Alien took place in a world we don't know yet, but it's not a fantastical world. It's this could be the way we travel space in the future, and this could be something, it's close enough to potential reality to grab and hold the imagination. Whereas something like, Godzilla is, just, it's pure fantasy. Dark fantasy, but pure fantasy. Probably explains one of the reasons something like Batman is so popular. For all it is, Bruce Wayne's just a rich dude who stays in shape. And so I stopped on this picture just so I'm sure everybody recognizes the Apocalypse Now bit there. But I probably wouldn't have recognized this except I watched the movie not that long ago. And although I don't think the boat went under the airplane, but still, that's a great diorama. Very specific. I just thought it was pretty cool. But anyway, Model is down in Kissimmee, Florida. There's a famous dogfight between Colonel Toome and Randy the Duke Cunningham. And then, man, somebody really likes S&Js and AT6s, the North American trainers, the Harvards, and T-Bolts. But, man, I've been to Model a couple of times. The builds are incredible. They really, these people have done some really, really nice work. And they need to, and Fran, I want to thank you again for those pictures. I'll be using this on a video, and I'm also glad that you were able to find the dome from Steve Iverson, because, man, those things have really become hen's teeth. And Steve actually, has some models made also, so he's edged into the specialty market. But you said you wanted that moon suit?
Yeah.
Oh, I just noticed he's got Gwangi from the Valley of Gwangi, a very underrated movie.
Yeah, he came out with that a couple of months ago.
That's great, because now you asked me if I was going to remake a movie. The Valley of Gwangi is one I'd remake with modern effects. And I think Harryhausen and the gang did a pretty good job with what they had. I mean, yeah, the movie doesn't really hold up today like you'd like it to, but it holds up okay. One of my favorite parts of that movie, though, is, and it shows it had pretty good writing, was when the cowboys are going through the ammunition, they realize they mistakenly brought their Western Wild West show blanks with them instead of live ammo. So they all realize they don't have any real bullets, they just have blanks. And I was like, that's actually a clever plot device. And
how you were just sort of surprised that there was Gwangi.
Mm-hmm.
That's why everybody has to subscribe to Monsters in Motion, because they have this stuff up on their site months before it comes out.
Well, I think they may be the prime contractor, so they definitely have the inside.
Well, no, they put it up for pre-sales.
By the way, that
so you find out a long time before it hits the general market that this is coming out.
Oh. By the way, side note, that moon suit, just for FYI, is not something that somebody just invented fantastically. That was actually a proposal by NASA.
Yeah, I remember reading about it.
Yeah, it made a lot of problems go away.
Yeah, they tested it in the desert.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you and Ken are going to have to take over a second. I'm going to run the pictures. I have to take a quick intermission. So you have the con number one.
Okay, Ken.
Now's your chance to talk about me behind the back.
We say it in front of you. Why would we talk about it behind your back?
Fair say.
So, what's everybody working on right now? We just had the 3-of-a-kind build, and, I think the next build is Ugly Car, but what's everybody working on right now?
Squirrel? Where? Sugar squirrel? Squirrel? Where? Squirrel?
Flying cars and doing. Huh.
I like that Razor Crest model.
Yeah, they had some really nice models in there.
What scale was it? Do you know?
No, I did not catch that.
The boss is gone. Party! I have to limit myself when I go to model shows. Forget eBay. You get awesome deals at these IPMS shows.
Brian's right. You wait till as the day goes on and it gets closer to them leaving and they have to pack it up, you go over and say, hey, what about this? And you're usually able to negotiate a pretty good deal if it's still available.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Chuck, so now I see turbine car. Which turbine car?
The captain. Number one's in charge because the captain has to do number two.
Yeah. Chain is down to 29 models on the go. Oh my gosh. I hope they're all cars.
I'm back, but I'm going to reload. I ran out of cough medicine. Be back in 60 seconds or more.
Yep.
Wow.
We're going to time you.
I'm working on somebody's mom. Very good, Garth Kraut. Very good.
Ah, that's an idea. 1/32 scale trumpeter Thunderbolt. Going to leave one side off to see the turbocharger and engine. I'm still working on my 3 of a kind.
Booked out with 20 models at the Atlanta show. Not on purpose. Yeah, tell your wife that.
Wife goes, what models? Ken, did you hear that Hornby is in financial trouble? Their trains are too expensive, it seems like. No, I did not. I'm not surprised.
They've been in financial trouble for about 3 years.
You got I tell you, the model railroading guys have gotten pretty spoiled with the quality of the stuff that's been coming out. If you don't have something that's really close to scale, I mean, like dead on, nobody wants it anymore. At least the serious people do. And there's a lot of serious modelers in model railroading.
Boy, there's a lot of interesting stuff people are working on. An Avro Arrow, a Nimitz, the Amerigo Vespucci, a scratch-built space station. Wow.
I don't see that. I'm looking at the Witch.
I'm talking about it's in the live chat. I'm reading the chat.
Oh.
John Ashley's near completion of 16 various war games models.
Oh, cool. I'm building a B-26B that this guy's great uncle flew in World War II. It's a birthday present for his dad. Wow, that's cool.
Big bashing the Apollo Soyuz model to fix the service module. You should be doing the Starliner then.
Yeah, they didn't want to come back in that.
No. I would have been, no, I'm good.
Yeah, KOS and C. All model railroad train stuff is too expensive. The days of the shake the box Athearn kit cars for under $2 is long gone. Oh, that was gone for decades.
I'm back. Okay. Had to put a minor fire out here. Apparently, I managed to scare the living crap out of my wife accidentally. They are watching.
Oh.
Well, they're in the bedroom watching The Shining. She's never seen it.
Who's they?
My son Eduardo and my wife Monica. And so when I went in to get more cough medicine, they got all the lights turned way down, so they just saw a shadow lurking in the kitchen, watching The Shining. Do the math. So
You happen to come in when Nicholson was cutting the door with the axe.
I don't know, but there was ethereal music playing, so whatever was going on screen, it wasn't good. And my timing apparently couldn't have been better, or worse, depending on how you read that. Anywho, so now we're 49 minutes in, and we haven't even gotten to the main topic that I thought we would talk about tonight.
Oh, wait, before you could do that, Super PZL, actually, you'd be surprised. Those Tyco trains do have a following. There are people who specifically collect Tyco trains. Go figure, but they do. Okay.
Brian, I think Living Crap is Sierra Hotel India Tango. I disagree with Max. I am at our inaugural Scale Model Expo in Honolulu, and I entered some models. Definitely not as good as a lot, but the bills you have received. Oh, I'm not being serious about that. I wouldn't have a problem with putting my models on the table. I wouldn't expect to win anything. When I say I'll never put my model on a table, what I'm really doing is complimenting the people the builds that I've seen, because they are fantastic. No, I wouldn't have a problem with putting my models on the table, because I build for fun. And I see a few of them out there that you can tell the people, they're not perfect. The people are building because they just love the subject. I just say that as a joke to really compliment the people who do have these incredible builds. And there you see different levels. I've seen some stuff out there that wasn't that impressive, but the people build it with heart, and that's what matters. Because remember, my attitude about model building is that this is a hobby. We're supposed to have a good time. And if you're enjoying yourself, that's what matters. I don't care if you glue a model together, slap the decals on it, and throw it on the table unpainted. Man, if you had a good time. We all have enough crap in the real world. This is our escape. And, heck, I didn't even start painting models until I was... Good God, I don't think I painted most of my models as a kid. It wasn't until after I got out of the Army and, maybe, black paint to paint the tires and stuff, but... And it wasn't that I didn't want to. It just money was part of it. And back in the 60s and 70s where I lived, there really wasn't all that. Although we did have some world-class model builders in my hometown. Doyle Pope, who was my older brother's best friend. He actually, I think, got some stuff in Fine Scale Modeler back in the 70s. Doyle was, I remember seeing his stuff. It was just excellent. And he was a perfectionist, took his time. And, of course, he was a teenager, so he was an adult. But you had to drive over to the big city of Tallahassee to get any decent stuff from Little Folks or Carter's Sporting Goods or one of those places. And my guess is maybe Lance or one or two others that live in Tallahassee may have a clue what I'm talking about. Basically, those are local hobby shops. Funny, that actually segues into the next thing we're going to talk about. We always talk about how the heyday of model building is behind us, that a fraction of people, most of them are our age, and there are very few young people building them. Most of the main big companies have gone out of business or sold to molds or whatever. But that being said, though, we do have the best kits ever made available to us right now, and in more options. And that kind of brings up the next subject. I actually saw, I think it was Dexter's Hangar or something like that, some young fella who builds models, and he did a pretty interesting video about have models gotten too complex. This is the Minicraft Thunderbolt, and to their credit, Minicraft has the quote-unquote simple build and the not simple build. But this is their simple build, if I'm not mistaken. But the problem is that even their simple build has like a 3 or 4 piece cowling. And actually, this is not the simple build. I think this is the more complex one. I think Edward does that with their Profi packs, the profile packs, which are simpler. They don't have all this interior stuff. But you start realizing that maybe some of these kits have gotten just the littlest bit overboard. Their kits are often a real airplane on a specific day in the war. And like this is, I believe, a P47D-25E or something. And I want to build the cockpit as a standalone display so that you can see it. I don't want to hide it inside the airplane. But look at how many parts there are, teeny tiny parts. And if you go look at their website or something, this doesn't even do them justice. I mean, the tail wheel on this thing, and this is 1/48 scale. We're not talking about a big 1/32 scale. That I could sort of understand. This is a 1/48 scale Thunderbolt. And they have two separate tail wheels, depending on which version you're building. One has the oversprings and the lock, and it's just blah, blah, blah. And there's 9 parts to it. And I'm like, that's just, and I thought Fujimi was nuts with the car kits. I mean, I really appreciate the attention to detail. And if you're a super modeler and you can make use of this and you want the challenge, and hey, man, more power to you. They give you all the options you can imagine, every different kind of drop tank or bomb. I mean, they've got an entire ordnance layout.
Yeah, but that goes back to there's different levels of kit of the same item. There's the beginner, there's the intermediate, there's the advanced, and then there's the super modeler.
Yeah.
Same quality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a progression of the hobby. I mean,
these are definitely super modeler kits.
What?
These are definitely super modeler kits. Even their simple one is pretty complicated.
But nobody tells you to go out and buy that kit.
Well, okay, since you brought that, okay, go ahead.
If you want a kit that has that many parts, and you're not skilled enough to build that kit because it tells you on the box it's for an advanced modeler, they rate them, then hopefully it's a learning experience for you.
Now, that brings up you've actually brought up a really good point. I was at Hurricane Hobbies yesterday, and I will, as my wife can tell you, I'm not one who's scared of stranger danger. I don't have the anxiety most people have about meeting new people, and especially when they're in a hobby shop looking for kit models. I walk in, I haven't been in the store 3 seconds. There's a gentleman with 2 kids, 2 young boys, and they're looking at some models, which immediately and he happens to be holding the Monogram SR-71. I guess it's Revell SR-71, which I built recently. In fact, I'll flip the light on here for a second. It's that SR-71 right there. That very kit that I built not that long ago. So anyway, he's looking at it and wondering about it, and I just cannot help myself because I have that kind of whatever you want to call it. And I invite myself into his discussion with himself by saying, oh, that's a good kit. I actually built that kit just a couple of months ago. Right? And I wait and see if he asks me any questions. And he did. And he goes, is it too complex for a kit? I said, well, how old? Has he built models before? And God bless the guy, he asked all the right questions. He was like, well, does this require glue? I said, yep, that's a kit that has to be glued together. It's not, we have some snap tights over here if you're interested. And I showed him the Airfix snap tights. He goes, well, no, I'm not buying it for these boys. I'm buying it for a kid for a present. He loves the SR-71. And I was like, and he builds models. Like, that's a good kit. He'll like that. It's not, and he goes, it's too complicated. No, actually, that one's not. And it's not. It's a pretty straightforward SR-71 build. It's maybe a level 2 kit. And we chat for a second. And I'm showing him the different glues and the advantages of Tamiya thin and the regular stuff. And it's like, he finally decided not to buy glue, just to buy him the model. And, probably a good idea. They can pick their own. But couldn't help myself. Just had to offer my unsolicited assistance. And I think I actually helped him out and made him feel good about his purchase. The kit's not that expensive. It's a good kit. And it's not that hard. So, but that, those older molds like that, I think, are still the the gateway drug for young people because, it's molded in color. So if you don't have any paint, it doesn't really matter. You can paint the whole thing in black, or you can just leave it in the black plastic, put the decals on it. It'll look okay on your shelf when you're 10, 12, 14 years old. But you're right, Steve. For guys like us, well, for people who are better than I am, who really want to make that magnificent build, then something like the mini art gives them a real challenge. If that was 1/32nd scale, I'd say hoorah, and see if I could get one myself. But at 1/48 scale, knowing these big, mitts that I'm dealing with and these, aging eyes, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I'll stay with the old monogram, trusty dusty monogram, Revell.
We all started somewhere when we got into this hobby. And we all started with the basic build kit.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we skilled better and we learned how to paint and we did other things, we built the more complex kits.
Yeah.
And that's a natural progression. And unfortunately, there are kits at the entry level, there's kits at the intermediate level, and there's kits at the upper level. So, it kind of works for everybody.
Well, this is why I hope Atlantis stays in business, because I think Atlantis is serving a very important role in that most of the kits they make are pretty good entry-level kits for new model builders. I don't want to say young, but new model builders. And
they have perhaps the finest mold bank that was ever put together.
If I get lottery money, I'm going to just buy that operation. We're going to put everything back into production, and because I won't have to worry about making a profit. I'm going to go off on a bizarre, stupid, idiotic tangent here because that's my superpower. If I had stupid money, if you remember the stupid money commercials, where they land in the family lands in the big corporate jet, get in cars, drive 30 feet over to the other corporate jet, and take off again.
Yeah.
Because we have stupid money. I love that commercial. Anyway, what I was thinking was I would make, if I was president, I would make model building part of the high school curriculum because of the educational value, which we all know is an absolute crock. I would do it because I want to get kids interested in models because I had a great time building them growing up. And I think kids could really benefit from the kind of fun that we had and the imagination. I can close my eyes and stop and relax and think about the flights of fancy I took with my models, both building them and playing with them afterwards. And of course I destroyed them all because of that. But I can remember laying all my off-scale model airplanes on the carpet in my bedroom, and that became my airport. And just, a lot of people complain today that one of the things that young people are not learning is critical thinking. They're told what to think, not how to think.
It's a different time.
Well,
Different time. They have things to occupy them that we didn't.
Well, this is true. And some are good and some maybe not so much, but I can't help but think that, it's really hard to overestimate the importance of certain things. Boy Scouts and our junior ROTC, and these things help mold me. But model building was where I went to stretch my imagination. It was just a tool that helped me. And of course, this will shock you guys, but I always had a pretty fertile imagination. I think my parents knew I had a pretty fantastical imagination when I described to them how my life was going to be. And, well, I'm going to go to college, get an aeronautical engineering degree, become an astronaut, and be the first man on Mars. And then make $1 bazillion doing something important that no one's thought of yet. So, and they kind of like patted me on the head, and that's a good boy. You keep dreaming that. But by golly, when I was building a model of an airplane or a car or whatever it was, that was what I was doing. I was out there, driving down the road in a 31 Caddy or, catapulting off a jet in a Cutlass. I still remember the Hawk. I think it was the Hawk. Skymaster. It was a Hawk. They had the photographs, 3 different photographs of the airplane on the cover of the box. And, or when Hawk would have the, Hawk had the profile pictures on their box art. And they had, they were the ones that had the Skymaster that had the profile art. It was all silver, and because it was a chrome, that's back when they're doing the chrome skin on everything, you know, which you had to file off to get the glue to adhere. And they had that, it was called City Hopper, and they had the guy flying the little Skymaster in airline pilot's uniforms. It was supposed to be a commuter airline, you know, and a freaking Cessna Skymaster. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. Oh, I'd love to fly one of those as an airline pilot, you know, hopping around the city. And I'm kind of like, God almighty. I mean, box art just made your imagination roll. Then you got the airplane out and started putting it together, and it never quite looked like it did on the box. And every weekend it was like a religious procedure. You know, it was like, oh, got my money, got to go buy a model, got to take it home, got to build it, got to watch TV. First, I had to watch TV, Saturday morning cartoons. When they were over, they showed the live action shows like the Monkeys and Sigmund the Sea Monster and that stuff. Then it's on the bicycle, out downtown, buy my model, get my hot dog, go to the store, swipe a tube of glue from Tester's Red Tube from my dad's store, and then back to the house, maybe stop and watch a movie at the Leaf Theater, and then home. And it was like a religious thing. And you couldn't ask for a better childhood. And I had no idea who AIP was, so I didn't realize the movie as... There were movies, you know, it could be Ben-Hur or, you know, one of those schlock films that were... It didn't matter. It was on the big silver screen, and I took it seriously. Oh, the joy of youth, man. What I'd give for that kind of naive innocence again. What would you say is the first worst AIP film you saw?
The worst AIP film?
Mm-hmm. And that's a rich target area.
That's tough. Probably Teenagers from Outer Space.
I was thinking that one myself. I hate that movie.
Yeah. That's the stupidest movie ever.
When they killed the dog, I was like, nope.
Yeah, no, that really turned it off right there.
That was it. Okay. Well, what are the odds that they put out a few thousand films and we both... Yep, that is the worst one.
You know,
history is now banned in high school. Yeah, really.
Horror movie shows, afternoon horror movie shows. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go to the movies on Saturday. They'd have 2 horror movies, and they'd have, you know, stuff in the middle, coming attractions. It was like a live episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. People would just yell stuff at the screen. That was funny. And that's what it was like. And you know, you had a great time. Everybody came out of there. You enjoyed what you did for the day. And, you know, you can't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Or I should say they don't do that stuff anymore.
Well, you know, I said it before, I'll say it again. I think you and I grew up, and most of us watching this right now, we kind of grew up in the Overton window.
Yeah.
I think we grew up in the best, and maybe a lot of people feel that way, but I think we grew up in the best time a kid could grow up. We had all the comforts and the joys, but we still had the tactile experiences, and you know, high school still taught civics and history. But anyway, tonight on Svengoolie. Yeah.
Lance says he knew a girl in the 90s who had no idea Paul McCartney had a band before Wings. She would have been one to leave.
Oh my God. Well, like you said, when the kid didn't know who John Wayne was, you're like, what? Look, how many, I can remember Sunday afternoons, you know, there were all of the old movies being recycled. And I really looked forward to them because, first off, most of them were in black and white. But even those that weren't, there were usually some kind of old AIP or horror film or something like that. And I don't know, it's like late night movie and they would show, you know, Conquered the World or something like that. Look, when you're 10 years old, they're not so ridiculous. And I realized the movies were about 30% stock footage, but I love stock footage. Heck, I used to watch I Dream of Jeannie. Well, partly because of Barbara Eden. No
Yeah,
doubt.
let's not go down that road.
Yeah, and then Major Nelson driving around his GTO, and he's got a convertible. I wanted a blue convertible GTO so bad. And the other thing, though, of course, is all the stock footage of the jets. I'd be like, it's just stock footage. I don't care. It's an F-104, you know.
My son is 41 years old, and he says to me repeatedly, he says, "You and your generation grew up in the best of times."
No, we did.
And he said, "You've lived in the best of times." He says, "My generation grew up at the tail end, but we're going to live through the worst of times."
Yeah. I grew up on the tail end of the good times. People, now don't get me wrong, I'd be 80 years old, and I don't, I do want to live past 80. But what I'm saying is I don't want to be 80 right now. Nothing against somebody's 80. I don't want to give up what youth I have left. What I'm trying to say is that those who can remember the 50s and the 60s, say 46 to 59, 58, probably grew up in the zenith. The 60s were weird and awesome and horrible all at once. What is that old, the curse of Confucius? May you live in interesting times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think America had a better time than the 50s, a more controversial time than the 60s, and in some ways a worse time than the 70s. I remember Malays, cars, and the Malays speech, and at the same time, we still had Gunsmoke, and
Yeah.
but I could tell in the 70s it was changing and winding down. And there are certain things as a young person who loves aviation that tell you when things are winding down, like when the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels went from F-4 Phantoms to T-38s and A-4s. Okay? Much smaller, less noisy airplanes, don't drink as much gas, don't have as much maintenance. Yeah, but to watch the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels do their routine in Phantoms, the earth shook.
Yeah.
Not that T-38 isn't loud as hell.
Nathan just said the first kit he ever built was a monogram snap type shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first kit you ever built that you can remember? The first one.
Airfix BTK bagged BTK Spitfire in blue plastic.
Okay.
6 years old,
Okay.
Didn't know about the water slide decals. I literally had my grandmother cut them out and I taped them on the airplane. I may not even been 6. That was my first model.
one.
That I remember.
The first one I did was the Revell Jeep and trailer.
Which you just
And I
did
was
recently.
What?
Which you just did recently. Again.
Which I searched for and found one complete on eBay. Bought it, did it, put it in a window box, put the box there, and I made a sign. And it hangs in my basement, and it says, "And this started it all."
Yep. Okay. Chris Pacer just made a comment. Cars were solid back in the day. Now, admittedly, they weren't as crash-worthy as I like to pretend they were. We all saw that video a few years back. But, do you remember... I know you do because you're more senior than I am. I remember car doors that if you got your finger caught in the door, you might lose the finger.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doors, you even learned to get your fingers in because doors went ka-shoong. Okay, speaking of which, by the way, piece of completely useless trivia. When Bonnie and Clyde were ambushed by the man, the people that ambushed them were largely using full patch rifle caliber 30-06s and similar calibers. All right? High velocity, good penetrating power, basically military cartridges for the day. Also popular. Hunting cartridges. The reason they were using these was because Bonnie and Clyde had escaped an ambush set up before, and where the guys had been using Tommy guns, where the caliber was 45 ACP. A Thompson submachine gun was actually called a submachine gun because it was a sub rifle caliber. It used a 45 ACP, which was a pistol caliber. An effective pistol caliber, but still a pistol caliber, made for short range stopping power against a human target. Well, the Thompson was designed as a trench broom for the First World War, and although it did not get fielded in time for World War One, the idea was a soldier would jump in the trench with a Tommy gun, and with this heavy caliber pistol round, he would dispatch the very close enemy in rapid succession, like the gangsters did later on in the 20s and 30s. Well, the problem is the 45 ACP, although a great up close and personal round, is a low velocity, heavy slug. They found that the car doors were stopping the 45 rounds from going all the way through. So they realized if we're going to take them out in a 1930s era car, which used steel in the doors, we're going to have higher penetration. So they went with full patch 30-06s and similar type calibers. So, which whistled right through those steel doors, especially with Spitzer cartridges. But anyway, so you're right, Chris. The cars were made out of steel, and if you slammed a couple of phone books in the door, they were pretty much bulletproof. Which, by the way, another useless piece of trivia. If you ever need to well, you know what? No one makes phone books anymore. That's another thing we remember that nobody had. If you could get your hands on some old school Yellow Pages phone books that are about that thick, guys used to stuff those in the door of their cars as a poor man's armor plate, and paper's a hard thing for bullets to get through. Paper and dirt.
Did you remember the episode in The Sopranos when Phil went after the woman who was not kicking up?
No.
And he went to scare her, and he took a phone book and put it up against her and fired into the phone book because the bullet wouldn't go through.
Well, if you ever watch Burn Notice, they had an episode where Michael and the gang had to make a bulletproof car real quick, so they grabbed a bunch of phone books, ripped out the inner lining, stuffed them, and filled the doors with them, and it stopped the 9 mils. By the way, another piece of ultimately useless trivia, if you want a really, really, really quiet 9 mil, even with a suppressor, a lot of guys went with subsonic stuff, which tends to make the guns jam because it doesn't have a lot of kick. But that stuff can be stopped pretty easily. In fact, I've been told that the British during World War II, when they did their training, they would hang what?
I'm sorry. Tom Fox says use the congressional budget in place of a phone book.
Yeah. Oh, that'd stop a howitzer. But the British would hang soaked wool blankets over a wire, and their SOE guys would run and they would shoot at them with a Sten gun. And apparently if you put a couple of soaked wool blankets over a wire, the bullet wouldn't go through. But they got to feel the concussion, hear the gun go off, and it was great training. And New York City phone book was huge and pretty much bulletproof. In fact, I think it was the Perry Mason series that they just recently did on one of the pay-per-view channels. Paul Drake goes out, he needs to get some bullet samples from some different guns, and he shoots them into phone books and then digs the bullet out. Yep, that's the way that's the way they rolled in them days, man. Yeah, it's funny. We grew up in an age where one of the reasons we call BS on so much crap we see on TV is we grew up in an age where people actually knew something about bullets and guns and ballistics and cars and bias ply tires and what a car could and couldn't do. And you see a car go around, fall off a cliff, and immediately explode, and you're like, why is it blowing up? Did someone put a bomb in it? Hollywood had a thing for a car went off a cliff, it exploded. That isn't how that works.
No, it isn't.
And but that's one of the problems with growing up in an era where you know this stuff. You watch, they call them BS on everything. And Mannix and Barnaby Jones and Cannon and all of them. The car went off the cliff, it exploded. I was like, there must be a thing between open air gravity and car gas tanks that makes them go boom. And why is the engine blowing up, not the gas tank? Oh, well, that's what happens when you learn to replace your own starter and battery and change a tire. And you know what the number one call out for tow truck drivers is in America today?
You want to jump their Tesla?
That's second. Number one's running out of gas.
Oh, okay.
Number one's running out of gas. Number two is a flat tire. Number three is needing a jump start. I mean, I got 2 sets of jumper cables. One in my car and one in the garage, which I usually put in my wife's car. Okay, do you guys remember Every one of us, man, of course, the cars we drove had a lot to do with it. But every one of us drove around with a set of jumper cables. That was like Survival 101. Airline Pilot Survival Kit. Major credit card, $200 in cash. Okay, so on to the next thing we're going to talk about tonight. Since we talked about Model Palooza and our kits to have they gotten to Tommy Anderson, Blue Trooper Tommy Anderson, sent me a magnificent CD today, and also an original copy of the Ghostbuster script, which I'll show you guys in a second. But Tommy sent me a DVD which has all 262 of the profile packs from the booklets on DVD. This is fantastic. The profile publications. Now, for those who do not know, we talked about this a while back when I got a bunch of the booklets from a Glue Trooper. And I wish I could remember who it was. If you're watching, please give yourself a shout out. I apologize for forgetting who it was. The profile publications from the early 60s to the early 70s was kind of like the Squadron walk-around books. They were a history of various aircraft with a bunch of the paint schemes and a lot of information, and it was made for model builders. And they are an invaluable resource. If you can get your hands on some, I grab them. But I just grabbed the Gloucester Gauntlet here because it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Didn't they used to sell the stuff in the Squadron shops?
Yes. Yeah. And then they started doing their own. These are out of the UK, and you have got to give the Brits credit. If there is one thing that they absolutely know how to do, it is history. They are magnificent researchers. They have a very keen sense of their own history. And, hats off to the UK for that. So, one reason they have so much of it. But the profile series is, and regrettably they're not in production anymore, but they were a series of booklets that were just very well researched. They were a resource essentially made for model builders, and absolutely invaluable. Beautiful research, beautiful artwork, and I want to thank Tommy for that. He sent me a DVD that has all 262 of them. Pretty much most World War I and World War II aircraft. And Tommy, I appreciate that very, very much. That was a very courteous gesture, very kind gesture, and those will not go to waste. So, something else that he sent me. Okay, let me turn the light down here. Okay. This is a signed copy of the original 1983 Ghostbusters screenplay. Signed by Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, the entire cast, Annie Potts, Ernie Hudson, the works. This, I'm probably going to frame and put this under glass or something somewhere. And thank you, Tommy. That's just one. Rick Moranis right there. Dan Aykroyd. And there's Harold Ramis' signature. And it's even got the old school pins in it. The old flange type. Thank you for that, Tommy. So, I am currently working. You guys saw the... I just finished the Stuka today. You guys saw I had in the intro, I had pictures of it. I put the antenna wire on it, got the small bombs on the wingtips and everything. Got the, I found out I did have some 1/32 scale tail markings that I put on it, so I repainted the tail. So it's all done. It can't go in the house. I mean, it's good enough to go in the house. It's just I don't have any room for it. So it's out in the Tarbis right now, sitting on top of the counter on the grass field, waiting where you see me photographing it, sitting there right now, because it's so big I can't put it anyplace else. I'm going to get another set of shelves for the Tarbis, and that'll just be a display shelf because I'm completely out of space in the house. But the monogram one, the old monogram one I'm working on, I have decided I'm going to put that one in winter camouflage, because it dawned on me that, well, what happened was I've done, I don't know how many Stukas, and I almost always do them in the European straight edge, jagged edged green over green. Huh? What?
Didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought, Ken, are you still here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I always put the Stukas in the light green, dark green European scheme. And the one I did, the 1/32 scale trope, is the first one I did in the Mediterranean or tropical markings. But I decided, you know what? I've never done one in white. And although they all still seem to have the light blue underbelly and underwing. But so the one I'm working on now, I'm going to put in winter camouflage. Now, the winter camouflage was usually sprayed over the European camouflage. So you're dealing with, basically, these are just 4 that I grabbed at random. There are so many winter camouflages schemes available. I don't know which one I'm going to do, but I'll do probably all white just to do something different. The only thing holding me is that I got to mask off that frickin' Stuka canopy again. And of course, damn Yunkers for making a, greenhouse canopy. But anyway, that's model building. Funny, I thought I'd go further with that one. Let's see. We talked about the profile, Model Palooza, the Stukas. Oh, crap. That's everything I had. Boy, I always think I put so much material together for these live streams, then we get about halfway through them, and I'm like, yep, out of stuff.
That doesn't usually stop us.
No, it didn't even slow us down. So,
It's that big cannon on the Stuka underneath.
Okay, that is a 37 millimeter cannon under each wing and a pod that was made as a tank buster. I think it carried 6 rounds in a horizontal fixed magazine. My understanding is it was actually not nearly as effective as the Germans thought it was. Now, yes, tanks have thin armor on top, and if you could get a kill shot in, and they did knock out some tanks with them, but you got to understand a 37 millimeter is not that big of a gun. So even if they managed to get one into the engine compartment or something and knock the tank out, the crew would run away. The Stukas would leave, the crew would come back, and they would report we killed the tank, which technically they did. They immobilized it sometimes. And then the Russians would come out, fix the tank, and go on their merry way. But that was specifically the anti-tank role for that airplane. It normally didn't get... They were much better if they could hit it with a 500-pound bomb.
I was going to say, yeah, a lot better chance of hitting it.
Well, what's his name? Rudell was the famous Stuka pilot who had one leg and had all kinds of adventures. And Rudell was one of those guys that you want to kind of root for him because he's such a war hero and so brave and, took all these chances and all these incredible things. But he was also an unrepentant and ardent Nazi. So you're kind of like, yeah, sorry, dude. Can't really root for you. But by God, the guy's been covered in several books. He is an interesting character, if not albeit, unfortunately, Not someone I'd probably want over as a dinner guest. But yeah, that's life, right? But the Stuka, that airplane should have been out of service by 42. Hell, by 41. And that thing soldiered on for the entire freaking war. Now, if you look at the two Stukas on...
Was it because they just needed the airplanes?
That, and they were set up to make them, and they really didn't come out with anything that much better. Remember, it was a dive bomber. It wasn't a fast airplane. It's got a fixed gear. In fact, one of the things I talking about in this live stream was combat biplanes that were still in service at the beginning of the war. In fact, let me go back to something. I want to bring a point up real quick. We tend to lose track of this. Let's see, profile. There we go.
Okay, Chris says, Max, you're taking away from the Stuka tank buster myth.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This airplane, the Ferry Gauntlet, okay? This airplane, I'm sorry, the Gloucester Gauntlet. Let me stretch this picture out. Okay. Hold on. Trying to get a bigger rendition of it here. There we go. Get a better look at it. This is the Gloucester Gauntlet, the direct predecessor to the famous Gloucester Gladiator. Now, this airplane was in frontline combat service with the Royal Air Force until 1939. The Battle of Britain was the summer of 1940. This airplane was 1 year away from seeing frontline service against Messerschmitt 109s. A lot of us don't appreciate how fast aviation was moving in the mid to late 30s. Biplanes were still very much in service, in combat, in World War II. The Gloucester Gladiator, the Fiat CR-42, the Polikarpovs, and that's not even mentioning the U.S. still using a lot of them for reconnaissance. The Navy was still using the Curtiss SOC-3, and of course a lot of our trainers like Stearmans and Wacos and N3Ns, but those weren't combat aircraft. It's ironic that the jump... Now, the first squadron to get Spitfires was or Hurricanes, I think it was Spitfires, was a Gloucester Gauntlet squadron. And they got the Spitfire in 38, I think, or maybe it was Hurricanes. But they got their monoplane retractable gear fighters in 38. But it takes time to transition a squadron over. So they were flying these gauntlets that weren't completely retired until 39. And a year later, they were fighting Messerschmitts. It was that... If the Battle of Britain had broken out a year before, these things would have had to go up against Messerschmitts. So just kind of a thing to keep in mind that,
Well, it seems to me that aerodynamic technology and engine technology kind of went hand in hand, because you couldn't build the frame unless you had the engine.
Both were advancing at a staggering pace. My personal read is that airframe technology was moving faster than engine technology. We're having a lot of problems with the inline engines, which is why so many of them are staying with radials. The Hurricane was deliberately, when Sidney Cam was given his marching orders by the Royal Air Force to build the Hurricane, they deliberately wanted a conservative design that they knew absolutely would work. And I don't blame them for this. In fact, the Brits did the same thing after the war with the V-bombers. The Valiant, the first one out, was deliberately a conservative design in case the Vulcan or the Victor didn't work out, because those were more radical. And you've got to have something that works. We did the same thing. When we developed the B-29, we also had Consolidated make the B-32 Dominator, which was a more conservative design, because we knew that would work, just in case the B-29 didn't work out. And make no mistake, even at the end of the war, the B-29 still had a crap load of teething problems. In fact, the last American killed in combat in World War II was in a B-32 Dominator. They were operational, and they were flying a reconnaissance mission. The Japanese were told after they'd surrendered that they were to pull the props off all their fighters and lay them in the grass in front of the fighter so the recon plane could come over and take pictures of them before the USS Missouri and the Navy and everybody went trucking into Tokyo Bay. Make sure that some, overzealous Japanese didn't attack them. And the day before this was required, a B-32 went and did a reconnaissance flight and was attacked by altitude Japanese fighters. They were shot up, and ironically, I think it was a tech sergeant who I believe was a cameraman was hit and wounded by the machine gun fire and died en route back to Okinawa or wherever they're based out of. But the next day, they flew another mission, and no planes came up. They took their photographs, and sure enough, all the propellers had been pulled off and laid in the grass. So, the Japanese attitude was, until tomorrow, the war's still on. And so they kept fighting. And that poor guy had the distinction of being the last man killed in the war. And there were people that were killed after the war was over, but technically it was over at that point. He was the last combatant killed during hostilities. There's a dubious honor, if ever there was one. But
Somebody's got to be the last person to die.
I'd like to be the last person to die. I'm only joking. That means that the world will be annihilated after me. So, yes, once I'm gone, there's no purpose for the planet to exist, so you guys can annihilate it. Now, I am...
the crowd says he was a gunner photographer.
Gunner photographer. Yeah, I knew he had something to do with photography. But by the way I know I'm done with the Stuka, I didn't take a picture of it, was that I got the last of the bombs on it, I got the antenna wire on it, it's all set up, but I hung the box up on the wall. And when I hang a box up or put it out in the other shed, that's when I'm officially done with the model. Till that point, it's still technically under construction. And let's see.
How to check out the Clay Tice story? Who's
Okay.
Clay Tice?
I'm not sure. There's the Stuka in its absolute final finished configuration. And I'll let you guys carry on. I have to take a quick intermission. I'll be right back. So, Ken, you and Steve have it.
Dennis
I
is
can't
saying,
believe they
"You guys
kept
don't
that
read
plane
the
in the
chat
war."
fast enough.
I can't believe they kept that thing in. You realize that thing was fighting the last day of the war with a fixed gear, 150 miles an hour. It's just like, and they had replacements, but they just. And the irony was, it was still, if you had fighter cover, it could protect the bloody thing. It was still an effective bomb dropper. It was incredible accuracy. Even the British were impressed. One British officer in, I think it was Tunisia, was watching them pound a British target, and he looked at his commanding officer and said, one must admire the Teutonic efficiency with which they do things. Okay, you got the helm, number one.
Okay. What are we going to do this time,
come up with
Steve?
interesting things to say to keep the people occupied.
We have to run this again, huh? Boy, we got to get him to Pens or something.
He needs to give us a little bit more notice so we have something to fill in.
Yeah, we got to have something planned. I mean, wow.
The B-32 was a
32,
technical
master.
master. Good they didn't buy that many. I didn't even know about the B-32. How many did they make?
Don't know.
I know you don't know. Somebody out there will.
Anybody out there know? Someone's brother-in-law was on the payroll. No, okay. That could be
Go scare the wife. Go scare the wife. I'll work at no play.
If we hear a crash, we'll know what happened. They're watching The Shining, so he's going to go in and tweak them.
No, I didn't until, I don't know, maybe just a few months ago. I didn't even know the B-32 existed until I saw a model on this show.
Yeah. Well, You know, thank you, Mike. I mean, that's all we could say.
Yeah. Oh, he needs a catheter.
Catheter. There you go. Okay. Thank you, Sluggo. Let's talk about Barbara Eden.
Oh, just tell dad jokes.
There you go. How about Crew in the Channel? Okay. There you go.
Every time I bring up the idea of Steve and I doing a show for Max because he's going to be out of town, Max just somehow miraculously seems to get his schedule changed so that he can do the show.
Right, he doesn't trust us.
I think there were only about 50 B-32s built. Yeah, that would make sense.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you hear me coming back in, everybody gets quiet.
Bladder bag. Just pee it and sit.
Divorce warning. About 200 plus military figures and kits today and didn't tell the wife. Yeah, he bought. Okay.
There you go.
You like the crowd does like to live on the edge, doesn't he?
Well, what's on the
edge?
edge
Get you
is...
a bucket with a funnel there, Max.
Yeah.
What's that?
A little pail.
What?
Just get. Dreamberry says you need to get a bucket and a funnel.
Why should Max trust us?
Get prepared. In another couple of weeks, there's going to be a big Ollie's kit dump.
Talk to me, Goose.
Why should Max trust us?
It's take about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks for the stuff to get in the stores. But
Sweet.
Look for big model dumps at Ollie's.
Tell them about, hey, Steve, tell them about what you found at Ollie's.
Oh, I was in an Ollie's the other day looking for a board game, and I happened to move a couple of things on the shelf to see what was behind it. And there I found 2 Atlantis 1/16 scale Jungle Gym funny car kits for $14.99 each.
I mean, that's amazing.
Just to let you know, they did come home with me. So
We'd have been disappointed in you if they hadn't.
I could not let them go by. They just kind of stuck to my hand when I touched them. It was like electricity.
They just jumped in your hand and wouldn't let go.
Yeah, I know.
Buy me. You have no choice.
Yeah.
Hey, kid, the
Took one
first
look at
one's
that
only
price tag and they said, "Yeah,
$14.99.
these are coming with me."
Wish we had an Ollie's in Arizona, but I don't think it's the West Coast.
You wish you had water in Arizona. Never mind Ollie's.
It is a little bit of short supply out there.
So we got about 20 minutes left, and I've covered everything I was going to cover, so now it's kind of a free-for-all. If you guys have anything particular questions you want to ask or something you're interested in or want to comment you want to make, now's something to talk about. Now's a good time to do so. Ollie's is an interesting place. I mean, it's kind of like Big Lots or Sticks and stuff, and
It's where good old toys go to die.
I was just thinking something along those lines. Yeah.
And actually, they're not old toys. They're current toys. If you're into Star Wars figures, boy, that's the place to go.
Yeah.
Nathan says, speaking of Frank from American Pickners, the one thing I learned from that show, and I just exercised this today at the hobby store, Frank always said the time to buy something is when you see it.
Well, he's not wrong.
No, he's not.
No, Lance, they did not have Jungle Pam figures.
And so almost $200 later, I exercised that philosophy at my hobby store. I saw things and I bought them. Kind of like that one guy said, I came, I saw, I bought.
That sounds more like Tyrion Lannister, I drink and I know things. And I was like, I can't when I buy things. I was originally planning to go to Model Palooza. And I was going to take a bunch of cash down there and just impulse buy anything I saw. And then when I woke up this morning, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to go because I had so much going on here, and just stuff in general, and this power still out in Daytona Beach, and yada, yada, yada. And it's 5 hours round trip. And if I went there, I'd have to leave by 2 o'clock to get back here in time to get anything ready. And I had so much work to do on the Tarbus. And I was like, you know what? There's a point in time, because the last thing I need to do is be buying, things that Kit Modeler never says, my stash is too big. I was just kind of like, I've got 350 kits here that still need my attention, and I'm going to drag home another dozen orphans. But I did want to go. But
so what's the problem here? I'm not seeing anything wrong.
Yeah, really. And
are you trying to make a point somewhere here?
not really. At this point, I'm just rambling. But this is drunk talk. But I'm sorry I didn't make it. They will be open in a few hours tomorrow. I mean, I could race down tomorrow morning, but I'm not going to. But what I really...
Is that Orlando?
Well, you know what really messed everything up? And I'm not making excuses. We had 2 hurricanes back-to-back, as you guys know. By the way, Fran's okay, Trey's okay, and I'm okay. So, and Lance survived the one in Tallahassee, although they were not so okay. But anyway, we're all back up and running here in Florida. 2 hurricanes back-to-back, or as we call it, party season. But I actually do think the hurricane had a lot to do with it, though. And had it not, I would have made plans to go down, maybe even get a hotel room. Because Monopalooza is 3 days. It starts Friday afternoon, goes all day Saturday, and then Sunday morning. And I probably would have gotten a hotel room, gone down Friday, and spent most of the day Saturday to get stuff together to come down. And God bless them, they actually download my videos when I go to visit and put them up on their IPMS page. So the pictures that have been sent to me, and some I know I haven't checked yet. You guys are sending me some that I'm gonna put those together, put something together, and post it so that they'll have something. Whether they choose to use it or not, it's up to them. But the thing that really, after everything, the thing that amazes me is that Fran was actually able to find that clear dome. I mean, those things they're up there with the Westinghouse nuclear power plant, the Hawk Beta 1, and the Tamiya Space Series Jupiter 2. And by the way, side note, I went looking for that. That not the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space, what Tamiya called the Jupiter 2, which is the vehicle, the little motorized vehicle. And I couldn't even find one on eBay. I mean, that thing, I think they're just all gone.
Trey says, you can always bunk with us, Max.
Careful what you wish for. I'm the kind of guy that'll take you up on that. My wife and I have been watching the sitcom Mike and Molly, with which we highly identify. Which is, if you guys haven't seen it, it's a great series. Anyway,
Trace, if Max comes over, make sure you go to the store first for food.
No, hey, Trey has fed me many times. He knows what he's getting in for. By the way, Trey, I don't know if you can see right. I got the Kiradashi right there, and I might use it for opening boxes, but that's one of my valued. Trey made a Kiradashi, basically a Japanese carpenter knife for me for my birthday, and it's a work of art. But
the crowd says, Max, do some Dr. Smith quotes, please.
Do some what?
Max, do some Dr. Smith quotes, please.
Oh, the pain! But you bubbling, bull-headed boob. But it.
That one wasn't very good.
What?
That last one wasn't very good.
Oh, you bubble-headed boob. Better?
There we go. That's a little better.
But my favorite one is, oh, the pain. Smith, gosh, I didn't want to go down. I don't want to go down this particular rabbit hole. This is really something more for when Dan Monroe's with us. But Smith is a interesting character. Jonathan Harris is an actor, and Smith is a character. It's, how can I put it? You know, for those of you who watched the original Lost in Space, Smith was a very dark character.
Trish says, glad you like the Kardashian Max.
Oh, very much.
Sluggo says, if you, I, and Ken were kids in the same neighborhood, would we have a no girls allowed tree fort? What,
absolutely.
Of course not.
You think there's any girl in the neighborhood who would want to go in there?
You see, Ken, you don't understand how this works.
We let her out?
Ken, you don't understand how this works. You put up the no girls allowed to protect you from the ego crush when no girls want to be there to begin with. What, you don't think we were thinking that far ahead? We're playing 4D chess here, baby.
That's right.
That's like that's like when the ugliest guy in the room goes up to the hottest chick in the room, just goes, "Look, I'm not interested," and walks off. Yeah, that's a preemptive strike.
Hey,
that's known as I call that preemptive defense.
Smith JM says Smith should have spacewalked without a suit.
Oh my God, I would have shot him out of an airlock so fast. You know, so the old joke is, like, if you want to get off Gilligan's Island, the first thing you do is kill Gilligan.
Well, you know, if you, okay, let's say, okay, the Robinsons didn't want to get rid of him because for moral reasons it's not right to kill somebody. Okay,
it's because the wife was a decent human being.
Tubes.
Well,
they got 7 of them.
You know, you guys, I realize, of course, I'm getting a bit literal on a 60s sci-fi show, but
I thought they kept him around so they could make Soylent Green out of him.
The
food ran out.
God, isn't that why they kept the dog in the lifeboat?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who remember the lifeboat, thank you for protecting my dog. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm keeping your dog alive because we may have to eat him later. But
Max.
Yes.
What? Francis says, Max, I'm in touch with Dan Monroe to try and arrange the serendipitous transfer.
Yes, good. I love the fact that I was able to. Let me rephrase that. I love the fact that we were able to get help him out, because Dan's a great guy, does a great YouTube channel, and I like to feel important. And that. Hey, Fran. Fran, it couldn't have happened without you, man. When I saw Steve Iverson over at Cultman over at JaxCon, I asked him about that very thing, and he said there's none left, there's none in production, he can't get them anywhere, I can't find them. He had one stashed all the time. You know what it was? I'll bet he didn't have it with him there, and he wasn't going to admit that he had one because he knows how to bug the crap out of him. But he brought it this time, and be honest, Fran got a pretty good deal. Those things are going north of $50 if you can find one, and I haven't been able to find one. And I'm glad. Look, I like to think that we're all kind of.
Fran charged me $200 for one.
I don't know if anybody go that far, but there's probably some radical fanatical model builder out there who would. But that would just be usury.
I'm sure. Yeah, I agree. I'm sure there's somebody out there who would pay that.
I'm really trying hard to say it wouldn't be me, but I'm not entirely sure I could live down to that. But I am really glad you two guys could work that out, because let's be honest. Dan's. He's had a channel for a long time, but it really picked up less than a year ago. And he's already got, 175,000 subscribers or something like that. He's turning into a genuine YouTube celeb, and I like to think I can hang on to his coattails. But anyway, no, I think this, he does. One of the things I really appreciate about Dan's work is how professional it is, and I know he's a voice coach and he's in the recording business, so he's got the skill. But I'm proud of my backwater second rate production values, because I love the fact that this is so, we're all just here having a good time. This is like a lodge meeting. We're all coming and yakking with each other and just having it. I mean, half the people are talking to each other in the comment section. I just want people to have a good time. But it's nice to know that people are out there who are doing, serious work are, noticing I exist. But anyway.
So KLS&C wants to know, is the Stuka crop duster going to be decaled for Raid or Black Flag?
Black Flag, baby!
Okay. Francis says, I am not into profiteering. I like helping others who share the same passion as we do as modelers.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And,
I didn't know Fran had his own church.
Yes, it's the Holy Order of Wood Modelers, because Fran does a lot of those wood. If you saw, he did those wooden models you saw in the viewers build. And he does really nice work on them.
Race cars?
The race cars and the military vehicles. Yeah. He's got at some point, Fran and I are going to get together and actually do an online documentary about some of the wooden models that he has. Because you have to remember, scale modeling started in wood. Styrene didn't come around in any. It started just before World War II with Frog and the Penguins, but it really didn't catch on until the 50s. And even then, a lot of companies like Monogram only did parts in plastic, like engine cowlings and props, that were hard to tool in wood. So wood was the original medium for scale modeling for 100 years or more, because it goes back to the 1870s and 80s, I think, when they were like, you could buy kits of model trains made out of blocks of wood. And basically, well, you remember we were talking about the kits where they sent you the diagrams, the drawings, and a bunch of wood and said, start carving.
Right. See, now, luckily, we didn't do much of that, and you could tell because we all have our fingers.
Yeah! Most of us kept all of them. But, Keto was, that stuff. I got
a few scars.
And I like to think that I helped give you a few of them, Ken. You helped me splatter my B-25 all over the runway. Flying upside down. What could go wrong?
I did not say that.
That is almost verbatim what you said.
I was overestimating your skill.
That's an understatement.
You flew that first circle so beautifully. I thought, okay, let's do something fun.
Yeah, he managed to get one decent. He managed to get one decent traffic pattern. Let's see if he can do it upside down.
Yeah, what's so hard about flying upside down? It's not difficult as long as you remember that up is down and down is up. I just take my thumb and just push on the stick, and that's how I know that I'm flying inverted.
I don't want to know what you do with your stick. Oh. That's right. I went there.
On that note. Max. Ooh,
and on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the end of this evening's revelry.
That ended it.
Yep. They went dark side.
Oh man.
Revenge of the Sith, baby. But the Stuka crop duster, the problem I'm having right now is the house paint I used on it is still tacky just a little bit. So it's probably going to take, and I'm assuming it's not attacking the plastic. My guess is it's going to take that a week to completely gas out.
About Halloween, it'll be ready.
Stuka crop dusting Ozempic over a fat camp. Okay. Because I was inverted. Yeah, that's my excuse, because I was inverted.
Nathan says, practically every radio control model aircraft I've ever slammed into the ground was me trying to look cool in front of everyone and fly inverted.
That sums it up in a nutshell. And no, what it was is I done a decent pattern, and Ken says, rolling it back, and I rolled it over, and if I had pushed forward on the stick, it would have just flown upside down because it was all trimmed out. But, you can't break all that years of instinct. I just pulled, and crap. And as soon as I did, I was like, I just hammered the power and pulled back on the stick, hoping it split ass, knowing full well there wasn't a prayer. And that thing power dived 85 degrees into the pavement. And, but we Bought a new. The tail survived. The engine survived.
What's this about Ken getting an M appeal model?
Nah. What?
What? This is
Wait, M appeal, or is he getting a chemical peel?
Did Ken ever get his M appeal model? I remember that being a topic of discussion a while back.
Oh, wow! That do not remember that one.
What was that all?
We talked about M appeal for a while, and about that she was attractive.
Oh, Lady Diana Rigg, of course. Lovely lady.
I can't really see me having an M appeal model sitting around and my wife enjoying it.
Well, unless she was full size.
Okay, and you think I went dark side?
I think I would. I think I could lower her. I think I would lower her opinion of me by quite a bit if I had one of those things sitting around on my desk.
It wouldn't lower her opinion, but it might lower her aim.
You know, when she goes to the range and she shoots at the target, she purposely shoots with her groin.
Oh,
Well, yeah. Ken, remember what Dr. Strangelove said. Fear! Deterrence is putting the fear in the mind of the enemy. My wife does say the nicest things to me, though, like, let's go to the range. I haven't shot in a while.
Never did it for me. What, were you blind?
Nathan says, now, Max, radio control planes are one thing, but I'm not a commercial pilot like you. But from what I hear, large commercial jetliners also do not react well to flying inverted.
That's an understatement. Slugo
That's
says no jugs. Well, no, she didn't have any P-47s that I'm aware of. Anyway, no, actually, you know, one of the things people like to talk about is, you know, how airliners may or may not be a certain degree of maneuverability. And everybody talks about the 707 doing the barrel rolls, which is a famous thing. But that's a perfect 1G maneuver. Actually flying sustained upside down, airliners cannot do. The engines will starve out. The CSDs, the constant speed drives will drop offline. All manner of mischief will take place. Airliners are made to fly in positive G, no more than 63 degrees of bank, and in 1G level. In fact, they have a negative 2G limit and about a plus 4 or 5. They really can't take that much. They're made to fly a bunch of people from point A to point B efficiently. If you want to fly upside down, you need to get a fighter. Speaking of which,
they won't fly upside down very long anyway, won't they?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, you could push the nose up and fly them upside down for a little while, but their structures aren't made for it. Not that they'll come apart, but you'll lose the engines and the electrics pretty quick, and everything's so computer-driven these days. An old airliner could actually do it better than a new airliner. But airplanes that fly upside down like fighters and stuff have, you know, pressurized inverted systems on them and stuff. They're made for it. Airliners are not. And what did Trey say that was cold-blooded?
As a professional pilot, how many FISDOs have you visited?
How many FISDOs?
Yeah, FSDOs.
Yeah, Flight Standards District Offices. As an airline pilot, I don't think I've visited any of them. Heck, I've only been to one FBO, Fixed Based Operator, and that's when I was flying John McCain around for 3 days. And when you're flying a political candidate, I didn't even know it was a charter trip. I just wound up, I bid it wound up on my schedule. No one told me it was a charter. And I was kind of like, I was looking at the city pairs going, since when do we go from there to there? I'm like, oh yeah, you're doing the McCain charter. Was somebody going to tell me? And by the way, even though we picked him up at Dulles at the FBO, they made him, they didn't have airline type security there. So TSA came out and they were wanding everybody, the media guys and McCain himself. They put him in a chair and wanded his feet and everything. He had to go through all the crap everyone else did. I was like, this is nonsense. Nice thing about those political charters is they cater the food. And, you know, we ate well.
Okay.
What? Crew's got to eat too.
Talking about the guy you were flying around, your biggest takeaway was the food.
That was where I saw Obama and Hillary, and of course I was flying McCain. I saw both of them. Hillary was chartering AirTran. Obama was chartering North American. And the deal is, the way it works is, when you're doing a political charter, you pull up at the FBO, the fixed base operator, not at the airline terminal. They use air stairs, the trucks with the steps on them. They pull one up to the rear of the plane and one up to the nose of the plane. Only the candidate or the political figure goes out the front door because that's what the media is watching. All the reporters and press people and support staff go out the back door. They do the same thing on Marine One. When the president's boarding up front, you can't see it, but his staff's boarding through the rear. And it's because it's a photo op. So I pull up the first stop. We stopped in Pittsburgh. And
did they go out the door facing away from?
No.
The crowd?
They're out there facing the media and the crowd. They want to be seen. And
No, not the guy going out the front door. The people going out the back.
No, they got the same side. They got the same side, just over on the tail. And all the news media is zoomed in on the candidate, so they're out of frame. But the now sometimes you can see there's a chance I'd be on the news, like hey, I'd give a little princess wave. And the candidates always come out doing their princess wave. And I usually, I'm the pilot, so I'm going to get this serious look, piloty, looking like I'm doing piloty stuff. Reach up on the overhead panel and move some switches or something, and look very important and technical. I know how to play the background character. But
you had your picture taken with him after the
yeah, I did. Yeah, for all about 2 seconds. Me and the FO posted, click, and he was gone. And they do that with everybody because they're really, really, really busy. His daughter was traveling with him, McCain's daughter, and she came up and said, hey, listen, can I hang the senator's coat up here? We don't want to get wrinkled. I'm like, yeah, sure. So we hung his coat up in the cockpit, and no big deal, but that's about all we saw of them the whole trip. They're really busy. This is a charter. They do, the crew. In fact, the in-flight crews that work the charters have to be specially trained, and because it's not normal service at all. And they and on top of that, not only we had a girl that was doing her evaluation, so that she could be signed off to do charters. So we had an instructor with her also. So we had way more in-flight than we normally have, and we actually didn't do that much flying. These political charters, it's like we went from I don't know, it was Newark or where it was. We went like from there to Pitt. That was the day. Because he had to give speeches a bit. And sometimes he bounced it. And it was really choppy in the Northeast. It was cold. It was wintertime. It was clear, but it was really bumpy. We were getting the snot kicked out of us. And you don't get up that high because, you're doing these these less than 1 hour long flights. Like Philly to Pitt. I think it was Philly to Pitt. And that was our flying day. But I was like, McCain wasn't bothered by it. He was an old naval aviator. He's used to getting tossed around in traffic, but some of the media people weren't handling it so well. But nothing I can do about it. Mother Nature. She couldn't give a crap what we're up to. So, but I saw Hillary on AirTran and Obama on North American. And Hillary came off the AirTran MD-95, which is basically an updated DC-9. And she's giving the princess wave as she comes down. Queen Hillary comes down. And the thing is, the DC-9 doesn't have a back door like a regular one. So after she gets off and drives away, then everybody comes trucking down the air stair. Obama was on a 7.5 from North American. So he came down the front. Man, he looked rough. He did not handle the turbulence well. And he came down literally off the airplane. Candidate Obama, because he was still, remember, these are the primaries. He's still at loggerheads with Hillary, or as he called her, the enemy. McCain was his enemy. Hillary was. And he came off that airplane, and he looked like death warmed over. His sleeves were rolled up. His tie was pulled loose. He was not interested in catering to the media and it was a rough day to fly, I'll be honest. But I've been flying long enough. I can tell when somebody's basically airsick. And he went down that air stair as quick as he could and got in the car. And Hillary, on the other hand, nothing.
She's used to flying a stick.
I wasn't going to say it, Ken.
Very good, Ken. You took it right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I was good. So it's so much. I'm going to go ahead and say it. This was so much better than my broom. And the comment section's already lighting up.
The problem is, though, hadn't you heard the flying monkeys following her?
Oh my God! Talk about shit in movies that terrified me. I'm still scared of those flying monkeys. I was afraid I was going to hit. That's why I wanted to get in ahead of her. I was afraid I'd hit one. If we came in behind her. Anyway.
Well, there we go. Let's see. Trey says, Barbara Eden, I do her shadow on a gravel driveway. There we go.
It's funny. My wife and I were just having this discussion. I was telling her about a game that Americans would
What
play
about doing
sometimes.
Barbara Eden on a gravel driveway?
No. Just hang on a second. You're on the right track, but hang on. I said we would play this game. The first one was we'd be around shooting pool. In fact, they did a Zima commercial about this. We would sit in a shooting pool, and somebody would just go out of the blue with somebody, and girls were included in this, by the way. They would just go, Ginger or Marianne? Marianne.
Okay.
And my wife and I agreed, Marianne. And then we'd go, Jeannie or Samantha. Now, Samantha usually got the bulk, but I was in the Jeannie camp. Then they'd, there was like no question between, like Daphne and Velma, but Scooby was more popular, but, then they would, these characters like that, and it was just a cultural thing. But but then it's like an elimination round. Then you wind up getting down. Usually it would get down to Jeannie or Marianne, and that's where most people got stuck.
No, that's easy.
Wow. We usually go
No, it isn't.
around 8. Tonight we waited till 9, and we really went off the rails.
Yeah, by the way, guys, we're in the after show now, in case you hadn't already picked up on that. The official live stream is over.
Marianne wins hands down.
What?
Marianne hands down.
Well, I won't argue with you. The other one was Raquel Welch or Bridget Bardot.
Raquel.
Yep, that's where I go. And the other one, what's that Italian girl's name I can never remember?
Luciana Paluzzi.
Yeah. But you get between her and Raquel, and it gets really tight at that point.
Yeah, that narrows the gap.
Standard deviation.
Laverne or Shirley.
Rand or Crusher. I'm going Rand.
Okay.
I'm going Laverne.
Rand or Crusher. I go with Crusher.
Marianne. Jeannie.
Wouldn't.
Oh, yeah, Betty and Wilma. And almost everybody's Betty camp.
Really?
You prefer Wilma?
It's a wonder Gilligan's Island wasn't overpopulated.
I'm not touching that one.
That's it.
But
Robert Rodriguez says Miriam wouldn't see her feet for 10 years.
And on that point, boys and girls, before we get shut down by the algorithm, I'll bid everyone adieu. I want to thank everyone for coming out and flying with us tonight. Hope you had a good trip. And guys, if you want to say your adioses, I'll loop the outro so folks can talk to each other for a while.
Good evening, troopers. Thanks for chiming in to another fun-filled and multi-topic live stream. Till next week, or the next time we see you, model on.
And I thought things were just really starting to get interesting. We had to shut it down.
We'll have to hold a different kind of live stream for that one, Ken.
Really? When did that start?
About 3 minutes ago.
Okay, fine. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. You never know what you're going to get. That's for darn sure, but we still enjoy having y'all here. Good night.
And Glue Troopers, thanks for coming out and spending your evening with us. I hope you had a little bit of fun and a few laughs. And we will talk at everybody later. Do plan on a live stream next week. Take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.
I should have known you'd bid me farewell. There's a lesson to be learned from this, and I learned it very well. Now I know you're not the only starfish in the sea. If I never hear your name again, it's all the same to me. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. You never cared for secrets I'd confide. To you I'm just an ornament, something for your pride. Always running, never caring, that's the life you live. Stolen minutes of your time were all you had to give. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. The stories in the past with nothing to recall. I've got my life to live, and I don't need you at all. The roller coaster ride we took is nearly at an end. I've bought my ticket with my tears, that's all I'm gonna spend. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Oh, I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Oh, it's bouncing and it's shining like a red rubber ball.
To the Battle of New Orleans at the end of the early British wars. The young land started growing, the young blood started flowing, but I ain't a-marching anymore. For I killed my share of Injuns in 1,000 different fights. I was there at the Little Big Horn. I heard many men a-lying, I saw many more a-dying, but I ain't a-marching anymore. It's always the old to lead us to the wars, always the young to fall. Now look at all we've won with the saber and the gun. Tell me, is it worth it all? For I stole California from the Mexican land, fought in the bloody Civil War. Yes, I even killed my brothers and so many others, but I ain't a-marching anymore. battles of the German trench in a war that was bound to end all wars. Oh, I must have killed 1,000,000 men, and now they want me back again, but I ain't marching anymore. It's always the old to lead us to the wars, always the young to fall. Now look at all we've won with the saber and the gun. Tell me, is it worth it all? For I flew the final mission in the Japanese skies, set off the mighty mushroom roar. When I saw the cities burning, I knew that I was learning that I ain't marching anymore. Now the labor leaders screaming when they close a missile plant. United Fruit screams at the Cuban shore. Call it peace or call it treason, call it love or call it reason, but I ain't marching anymore. No, I ain't marching anymore.
Take you